Okay, can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from January 12th?
So moved.
Second. Vote. 5-0. Okay, the first item on the agenda is an update on the ADA proposal and work. So Dan, would you lead that?
Yep, so the ADA committee has been meeting regularly. I think making real headway. The priority was to deal with those issues directly related to safety. And two issues jumped to the fore, parking and the ramp outside. We have recently completed an RFP, a draft RFP for the ramp. With your approval, we'd like to post that in about 2 weeks. So we would post that RFP around February 15th, with a deadline for questions April 7th, proposals due the 15th, April 15th. We would award the notification after the town meeting. We put June 15th, that's a few days after the town meeting. And the earliest start date would be June 16th with a completion date by November 1st because of the election. So the important points that we have on that RFP, I think to mention, is it does not include the relocation of the generator and the tanks, demolition of the existing ramp, disposal of that material, any restoration to the building that might be needed, earthwork and prep site for the prep site, and the paving of the walkway leading to the ramp. It was suggested that we either do those ourselves somehow, or we have separate RFPs for those pieces. So this would be an RFP for buildings, the new aluminum/metal ramp. And there, it's in the attachment I sent you today, there's the designs and all the particulars, including criteria for evaluation. I think the committee did a good job. It's a very full, I think, complete RFP. But Tyler, you had questions about how to finance that. Tell me your thoughts on that.
So right off the bat, I think it's a capital project.
Yes.
I don't believe it should be coming out of operational expenses. So I guess my question back to you was more, does the committee have a recommendation on how they want to fund it, or do they want to just kick it to budget and we'll figure out how to fund it? Because my issue with issuing RFPs for next budget cycle is if they're not, we can't really award contracts until after town meeting.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that all those dates are lined up in the RFP. And from a budgetary perspective, I would need numbers on what this is going to cost before April 1st. There's a little bit of wiggle room there if we're just dotting I's and crossing T's before then, but I need numbers before April 1st. Our final budget vote is set for either the 13th or the 20th of April. So there's like I said, there's some wiggle room built in, but April 1st would be
this would not be a separate one.
Yeah, it would be a separate article.
So yeah,
Separate article.
yeah. So because it's a capital project, it would be a separate voted line. It would be similar to the fire truck from last year. Not saying it's going to come out of undesignated funds, but if it did, it'd be worded like that. Or if it was to go on to this year's assess taxes, but it would still be voted on as an independent
As a
project
separate article.
because it's a capital project.
Yep. Well, we can off the cuff, give a few numbers that were thrown around among the committee members today. But give us a little bit more time to try to figure out exactly what that's gonna
Yeah.
be. For example, Christopher Root, who's really good, well versed in this, feels quite confident the ramp itself would not be more than 30,000. But we wanna be careful on that. What do you think, Bob?
That's why we're going out on the RFP at this point, so that we have a pretty good idea what the cost.
Per the budget committee schedule, like I said, we're not, capital projects aren't until middle of March.
Yep.
Is when we're discussing capital projects. So as long as we have a number that we can pencil in and adjust, that's when I just need that number by.
All right, we can definitely do that.
Okay.
And
Now, there was some question about, I got pricing from the generator people, the ones that installed and we purchased, that came up to 5,000. I'm not sure what you want to do about that.
well,
We could go to other generator people, but does that,
I mean, what's our bid policy?
what does
Yeah,
that do
I
to
agree.
our warranty with? We're having, we do yearly warranty work on the generator. I don't know.
but I think we're in a conundrum in the sense that we should have 3 bids on it. Given the dollar amount.
What's our dollar amount?
I think
for
it's
RFP?
$1,000.
It's
Give
two-
me 2 seconds. I can pull that.
So we need bids.
Pardon?
That was,
1,000, yeah.
So we need RFPs for each of these pieces.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, on this project here, I would just write it as one RFP for the whole project.
Right.
So moving the generator, adjusting the parking spots. I mean, it's one project. It's not, I mean, you have different components to it, but it is one project.
Well, as I recall, Christopher, and maybe he's on Zoom, suggested that the companies that put in ramps are pretty much ramp only companies. So they're not gonna also move the generator. They're
That's,
not that sort of thing.
but I mean, I guess if you went to a general contractor, and they installed the ramp to spec, then you are in a situation where you can write a general bid project.
I think we might be better off, we can take it up to the committee. But I think we might be better off with 2 RFPs, one for the ramp and one for the generator, the demolition, the restoration, the earth site, all the 5 things that are not listed would be one separate RFP. General contractor could do that.
Like I said, I'm not so much hung up on how you structure the RFP. I just want to make sure that when we write a budget line, all of that is built into that budget. Because I think when we wrote the roof, I think there was a thought there that warranted item was going to cover more of a project than it ended up covering. So if the project costs $50,000, we'll say, I'm throwing a number out here for math's sake, and installing the ramp costs 25, and when we put it on the warrant, we put in 30,
Yeah.
there's a gap there.
Yeah.
So I'm saying before we write this, and I'm not opposed to writing a little, especially if we take it out on designated funds where we're not raising taxes to fund it. If we write, a 2% overage into the warrant, so that way there you cover any accidentals, I think that's fine. But if we can try and get it so we know what the whole project's gonna cost before we sign an approved project, that's best practice in
I like that.
my opinion.
Does that sound about?
That's what we're working towards.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay.
We'll kept those 2 numbers, we'll combine them into one.
And then you can write as many RFPs out of that
Yep.
line as you can.
I like it.
And then I have one other
Yeah.
comment, and that is, I still think it's worthwhile reaching out to the state's ADA resource to see if they might be able to provide the paving that we need,
The paving?
the road integration, if you will.
Okay. We're reaching out to them for the next step for the committee. Oh, there we go. This is just the first
I'll
step.
try.
We need an audit for all the facilities in the town. All the pieces of the town, understanding that it's a multi-year piece by piece process. This is the big one, but there are a whole bunch of
I
other
mean,
things.
that, I
Chris
mean,
told us, for example, the doorknob right there is not ADA compliant. So there's a lot of pieces to it.
but I think that, because ideally you'd have either an engineering or architectural firm come in and do that. I think that's where you work with the state
Yes.
and see if they'll fund that piece,
Yes.
the actual study, and then we can come up with a capital asset plan to actually fund those improvements based on categorization of need, immediate need, short-term, long-term need, and come up with an actual actionable plan for that. That would be my recommendation.
Well, that's what, there are some state offices that help
Okay.
with
Yeah.
the audit.
Yeah, the one I was referring to was part of
DOT.
Maine DOT.
Right. Okay, maybe.
Okay, any other items on that? Kathy?
So is it that an audit or whatever you want to call it, of this particular land that we have, I just can't remember, that says that is not ADA, it's not ADA requirement, what we are at. That's one piece of it. The other piece of it, and I don't know if you can answer this or not, but how much of the actual green beach space and all that is going to be taken away with this new, and I basically, my question is, do we absolutely have
Right. Well, my understanding is the existing ramp is falling apart. So there's not a repair
I
option.
thought MMA was the one that said the ramp was.
Insurance.
The insurance said the ramp wasn't
Well, the grates,
kosher.
I think the grates are problematic.
Yeah,
Right.
the grates, as you're going down the ramp, those grates, they, it's the handicap.
With a cane.
So it was,
Can I step in here?
Client by doing something different. And I appreciate all the work that you've done.
No, I get you. It's a
It
quick.
sounds like it'd be great, but how much of that beach is gonna be gone now? It's taking, and does this have to be approved by the town? Haven't told me before.
Yes.
Is that, yeah.
Chris
It is.
has something on
Yeah,
that as well.
it is deteriorating the building. Where the ramp, existing ramp is coming, that is rotting. So
Chris, you can go ahead.
Mr. Curious,
The-
we just built.
The existing,
Go ahead, Christopher.
the existing ramp is not ADA compliant. It's not just the grates. I could go into the reasons if everybody wants, but the grading is
Nah.
wrong, the platforms are wrong, the railings are wrong. The landings are not, and it's not ADA compliant. And ultimately, that's why this is happening, in my understanding. And it's pretty simple. I have another comment that I want to share, and the aesthetics of downtown Mount Vernon are pretty lovely. You know, it looks nice. The town is the town community center is a nice looking building, and we've decided as a committee that aluminum is a choice because of its cost, because it has very low maintenance, and it has a longevity. However, the wooden ramp could also, you could build a new wooden ramp that could be made to be ADA compliant, that could be made to fit in with the current building look. And it most likely would cost a little more, and it would require more maintenance. And my question is this: is the committee being presumptuous that the town wouldn't want a choice on which one they would want? Or is it okay for us to just say, hey, we think we should have metal? And even if it doesn't fit in, the town would want to take the least expensive one no matter what.
I mean, in my perspective, I think it should be, it's a little bit of both. It's not so much the upfront cost, it's the long-term maintenance of the capital improvement. So in my eyes, I think it's no brainer to go to aluminum. I mean, because if we really wanted to go to it, we could paint the railing and stuff and make it blend a little bit better, but it's a maintenance cost. Wood, you got to maintain wooden fixtures. Aluminum, I'm not saying it's set it and forget it for 30 years, but set it and forget it for 30 years. And it's not something that we have to maintain. We may have to make slight modifications if ADA standards change over the next 30 years, but it's not, we're not going to have to go through and make sure that the boards are still being screwed down as they rust out.
Stop looking.
So that's where I'm at, but I'll let the rest of the board chime in.
Well, we discussed it, but sort of along the lines of what Tyler said. And we were thinking stability, maintenance, long-term value. And honestly, I think we sacrifice a little bit of aesthetics for that. It's going to be a metal, aluminum ramp on a beautiful old building, but it's a functional piece of what we do. Kathy, I would also say that it doesn't really cut into the green space a little bit. The approach walkway is close to the parking area. It goes out 33 feet in front of where the handicap cars would be. So it's very close to that. And then you come to a landing and head up. So it's not deep into the lawn.
It's not like the original proposal where it jetted out off the building. If I read it right, it's hugging up underneath the canopy here, and then it gets down to the road and then bells out.
That's right. That's correct.
No,
No, it goes down to basically the parking and then turns
And it's over.
over it. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, one more question.
Okay.
I heard somebody say, this versus something that this is not ADA compliant, and I just like to know according to who.
Say that again?
Who is it not ADA compliant to, according to what body is it?
Well, we didn't wrestle with that because we thought the structure was coming down. That the stairs were in disrepair. There was foundational pieces, there were rotten wood. It was a great issue. So we didn't dive into why isn't this ADA compliant, but we heard the same material as Christopher.
Right, but if you want to do, or you want it to be ADA compliant, it seems to me that maybe you should know what that exactly means.
Well, it's.
I can answer that question if you want.
Go ahead, Chris.
The question is why the existing ramp is not ADA compliant? Is that the question?
No.
No, it was who
Just-
determined.
who determined that it was not ADA compliant?
Well,
That's not
the
the
way
problem
that
came up. Go ahead, Chris.
there is a very specific set of design criteria to meet ADA compliance. And there's almost nothing about that ramp that meets those. And I looked at it, I measured it, we calculated the slope of the ramp. And so it's not arbitrary.
So you determined it. Got it.
Hi, this is Sherry Wenzel. One of the companies that came to look at providing an estimate also told us that the slope was close, but it was not ADA compliant. So this is a company that specializes in providing ADA ramps. the boards, the wooden boards, that run all up and down the ramp, um, are, some of them are rotten. And this year, my husband and I had to re-drill holes because all of the screws rusted out on every single board. There were trip hazards, because some of them were cupping. So we had to re-drill holes in each of those boards and put in new galvanized screws to hold them in place. So it's okay for now, but in the greats, MMA has said, it is an issue for insurance liability because people can get caught in there. A cane could go through that hole or someone's heel. And they just kind of sit in there next to the wooden treads. So they're not safe. So the new ramp
Okay,
does not have the grates, which aren't needed anymore now because we have the roof over the ramp.
Okay, I assume that there's going to be more discussion about this at future meetings. And so I'd like to cut the,
She had one question.
okay, sorry, Karen.
Karen Mayers on Pond Road 1065. I think it's not that it's in disrepair. I think we know that, and from what she just said and everything, it's the qualifying that it is ADA when you're done. We had a restaurant, we built it in a barn. We did the bathrooms according to the specs that we were given, and I honestly don't remember who it was, but somebody came in and with ADA like through the fire department, and they were like, yeah, no. So we had to rip it out and redo it. So just, and I'm not doubting your ability, Chris. I know you know what you're talking about, but you want to have that written down that somebody with a degree or a
Well,
certificate or something.
Karen, it's an excellent point. I can assure you and be absolutely happy to post the RFP. It is filled with language about the proposal only being accepted if it's ADA compliant. I'm just looking at one line. First one, proposal will be evaluated based on, number one, demonstrated ability to deliver a code compliant ADA ramp, parens, most important, as specified in our drawings. So our criteria for evaluation is that they're able to provide an ADA compliant ramp.
I think the question is who is saying
I mean,
that
the
it's
state
ADA
must have
compliant? That's all.
someone that can come out and vet the design before we approve
I
it.
think that's fair. I think that's.
I mean, I think it should be MMA's legal, or MMA risk, or insurance, because they have issues with the ramp.
They are our insurance, and they were one of the folks that said it wasn't
Right.
ADA
So
compliant.
make sure it's kosher with them, and then go to the state, I think it's Human Rights Commission, and make sure it's kosher with them. I mean, I think that dots your I's and crosses your T's.
I think it makes sense. What we could do is, I guess, submit the proposals from, I don't know, the top 3 bidders or something.
Well, I mean, I think even your base design that you're
Right.
Yeah.
requesting to be built could go to them and just say, hey,
Okay,
this is the building,
we have
this is
that.
the existing ramp, this is what we're looking at building, is this kosher?
Yep, which is Appendix A. We'll do that.
Based on your sketch here that you sent us. Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we'll close this topic unless anybody else has a comment, and move on to the communications website committee update. And Tyler, I understand that we haven't had anybody volunteer for this.
I haven't, so I'm just going to plug it again. If people want to be on that committee, it's to both evaluate the town website, evaluate social media, and also to just assess how the town communicates various issues. We're looking for somebody under the age of 30, somebody over the age of 60, and then 5 other committee members to fill in those roles. But we did want to make sure that we had targeted in those 2 demographics. As for social media, it's working really well. The agenda got posted today, and I think there was a lot of questions that got raised, but based on how many people are online on Zoom and here, I think that it did what it wanted to do, and people
Okay.
are to have their opportunity to speak out on the issues that we're discussing.
And it's for a 6-month trial.
So if we don't have a committee, the select board's going to evaluate it.
All right. Any comments, questions? We'll move on to transfer station hours. And I thought I was going to have something to present here, but as many of you know, there was a bit of a survey going on, an informal survey going on about transfer station hours. And what we've come to decide is that this transfer station hours are going to stay as they are. So there will be no shifting of days, specifically Sunday to another day. And it'll, yes.
I'm hoping that the board can have a discussion about that.
Yep.
I mean, what you're saying, Carl, is for now.
For now.
Okay,
Yes.
for now. That's fine for now, no worries. I think we should talk about it. I think that's an important service that maybe should be a little bit more open. The other piece that I mentioned to you all in at another time was that I think we have to be careful as a select board to do informal surveys. They sort of have the imprimatur of the town, the select board doing it. I didn't even know it was happening.
Same.
Same.
So let's just, I don't know if we need a policy or just a nod that, hey, we're not gonna, as subcommittees or committees, we're not gonna do surveys suggesting that this is a select board info gathering thing, unless we all agree. That makes sense?
Yep.
Yep.
What are you proposing for hours?
Oh, I'm thinking about Wednesday, but I'm open to discussions, you know?
I mean, and Bobby, you're gonna have to correct me if my math is wrong here, but I think there's enough budgeted hours right now that we could add hours. Because if you look at this year's budget, we budget for, correct me if my math's wrong here, but 3,100 hours of staff time at the transfer station.
Yep.
But we're only open 404 hours a year. It's 8 hours a week times 52
Times 3.
times 3 employees. It's still only like 1,200. And then assume, I mean, I'm going to be generous on admin time, that it's 50% of that is admin time.
That would be.
You're still way under 3,100. Because we budget 1,000 for each employee, plus Megan gets an extra 100 hours.
You did take a look at another town, too.
I looked, Dover Foxcroft is double the size of Mount Vernon. That's what I kind of circled around, and they're open 4 days a week, 4 or 5 days a week with a lot longer hours. Granted, double the size of Mount Vernon. It's about 4,400 people compared to 1,800 year round, probably 2,400 in the summer, 2,600 in the summer. So apples and oranges, but I think there is even if you look at, Reed Field Services, 3 towns, and they're open 5 days a week. So even if we just added hours on to Saturday and Sunday, I think we'd still be under budget, what we're already budgeting. And it just gives people more time to go to the transfer station. I'm not proposing putting lights in so it's open at night on Wednesdays, but just more time on Saturday and Sunday, I think would go a long way. And if it means we have to hire some more staff so that there's some alternating there, then so be it. But, we look at that staff line, and the last number we got is we're over halfway through the year. We're through the busiest time of the year because we have the 2 months with October. We've barely expensed 40% of the salary budget. We've expensed about 50% of the overall budget. But yeah.
We also want to make sure that the staff that's at the transfer station stays. So they have requested several times to have one day off or the other, which in turn, we were thinking about adding people so that their requests can be met, so they can have a Sunday off or a Saturday off. Were we not going to do that?
It's possible.
I think that's the only way you're going to get additional hours on the weekend.
And I'm not gonna, like, until that's in place, I'm not gonna push the issue, but I think that there's budgeted money there. And I don't think that the increase in hours is gonna necessarily add to admin time. So, yeah, but
Do we
correct me if I'm wrong on that math.
Do we always need 3 people? I'm not saying we don't. I'm just kind of wondering if that might be another place to say at certain.
We need minimum
points.
2, I think.
Wednesdays in the summer, they work 2 people. They don't need 3. This is in the middle of the summer.
I mean, when I was at Nova Foxcroft, they had one person, and that one person was unloading people's trash. Like, you pulled up parallel, you pulled it in front of the thing, you pop the trunk, you get out and you help them unload your car, one vehicle at a time. So you don't have people backing in and out and
Can't
having
do
a
it
traffic.
with, you got to have 2. You've got 2 compressors. You've got to have 2 people.
No, what I'm saying, they did recycling different than we did, but what I'm saying is for trash itself, instead of having people backing in and driving out, you pulled into it, unloaded your stuff, and then pulled out, and the attendant was helping you unload your trash. And for me, it might have felt a little slower, but it felt a lot safer than how we're doing it now. And I don't think that's a fault of the staff. I think it's just a fault of how it's set up. But I mean, I think it would be worth looking at. Something needs to be done here because the town is growing. We're having more summer residents coming in. It needs to be open, frankly. It just, and I'm not proposing 5 days a week. I'm saying, well, maybe 2, 3 o'clock on Saturday and Sunday.
Honestly, I like that. It's a scramble to get it done often. And particularly if there's some weather in the morning and so forth, it's a real scramble to get there by noon.
I think down the line, if we want to make the investment in lights, then I think you look at a Wednesday. But because otherwise working people can't use it. So that's the only hesitation to open it up on a weekdays, working people can't use it.
Remy has a question.
I just would like to ask too that if at any point one of the pieces of equipment breaks down, to post on the website when it's back working. Because I think it was not this past weekend, but the weekend before, the recycling wasn't working at one point, and I was there when it wasn't working and I couldn't wait. But there was never any post on the website or anything that it was working again.
I would, and I'd say the same thing, as if I know I can get it out on social media like that.
We'll bring that up to Megan and
Yeah,
ask her to let us
just
know.
like something, because I mean, I don't really want to be having to text you guys about it. It would just be nice if it were on the website.
And
Megan should do it.
And Megan does have access to the Facebook page as well to blast those updates out.
I just didn't want to drive all the way back and then it's still broken, because that's not fun either.
Nope.
You're too busy at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be done.
Okay, any other comments?
I mean, I just, on the budgeted hours, can we get a look at how many hours we're actually using per week? Because either we can claw some of those hours back, or we can realistically look at what we've already been budgeting at increased hours. And if we need to bring on more staff to facilitate that, we bring on more staff to facilitate it. But I think there's an over budgeting there.
There isn't there's no carryover in that, is there, Bob?
Yeah, Leo works 20 hours a week. Megan works 34 hours a week. And George works 21 to 22 hours a week. That's
22.
exactly what they work.
32 plus.
Is that 2 weeks, Bob?
What's that?
Is that 2?
No, every 2 weeks. Sorry.
It's 2 weeks.
I'm
So
glad you said that.
50. And what was the last number?
George works 22, averages 22.
That's only 1,976 hours and we budgeted for 3,100. So there's an extra 1,000 hours there.
I think some of it's admin time.
No, that's
Not
what
jump
he just
time.
pulled their average, what they're actually working
For
And-
2 weeks.
for 2 weeks. And it's roughly 70.
So that's 4. Yeah, 4 openings. Yeah, no, 2 weeks.
But again, I mean, if you do that 76 times 26, you only get basically 2,000.
But it varies a little because we look at their time sheets. We just did it this past weekend, so I don't.
But what I'm getting at, Peggy, is even if there is a variance of 10%, you still get 800 hours. You still get 800 hours of staff time in that line.
Well, if you want to use it to extend the hours, but
I'm,
we also need to use it to
I'm not.
add personnel so that
Yeah,
our permanent personnel we have now can have a day off.
Right. But what I'm saying is if you give somebody a day off, they're working less hours. This is what we're totally billing for right now.
Mhm.
What I'm saying is there is an extra 1,000 hours. So we either can claw that 1,000 hours back or expand the hours and there's not an increase in taxes. Just,
I see what you mean.
yeah. So I'm just saying like, there is an over budgeting here. We, through the budget process, need to figure out what we're going to do with that. Because there's either a tax savings or an increase in services that we can deliver and not increase the percentages. And I don't think we need to make a decision tonight, but
Well, I was wondering if, I think we should try to empower the committee and Megan. What do they think? The boards, I think, some of us are leaning towards a few more hours on the weekend. Definitely Wednesdays in the summers. And hiring another person so that they could have some time off. I'd love to sort of move on that, but I wouldn't want to do it before they had some say. So, does that make sense?
yep.
100% agree.
We'll bring it up at the next transfer station committee meeting.
And then, like I said, transfer station budget meeting is,
When is the next one?
Thursday.
This coming Thursday? Okay.
let me just pull while you guys are going to that committee. Double check. Transfer station and roads is March 3rd. So if we can get a decision or a slew of decisions, that way there we can pencil in some budget implications of March 3rd for roads and transfer station, no capital projects, just operations.
That's when it's going to be brought up at the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I can go over the schedule real quick, just so everybody's kind of aware. So we have the first meeting next week at 6. That's more preliminary, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page of how we're actually going to put this budget together and how we're going to adjudicate differences. And then on the 10th, so the next week, the next Tuesday, is fire and rescue, along with dispatch, ACO, Winthrop Ambulance Lifeline. We may have to push those to a later if we don't have changes, but we can at least discuss them. And then the 17th is going to be the town office. So the clerk's office, code enforcement, treasurer's office, utilities, and general assistance. The week after that is community services. So the library, the community center, any special requests for like the nonprofit requests, all of those. And then March 3rd is road operations and transfer station operations. And then after that is capital projects. So any kind of one-offs or like building improvements or special requests, we'll discuss those on the 10th. And then on the 17th, we'll have a public hearing, the first public hearing where we'll present a first draft of the budget. We'll have another budget meeting that following Tuesday to kind of incorporate some of that feedback and say, okay, are we way off or are we, there was concerns here or we've got lenient way here. We can go back and revisit some areas where we may have cut or didn't need to cut. And then finally, the following Saturday after that, we'll have a second public hearing on the budget to give people 2 opportunities before the committee is done to present it. And then we'll have one more budget hearing. We'll have a hearing, a select board meeting where we'll invite the school board to come present their budget. I've already talked to Leslie Marco, who's the vice chair, and our budget committee rep. She's already agreed and is okay with that date on the 6th. And then on the 7th, we'll do the final budget meeting to say, this is what we're going to recommend to the select board. And then we'll vote the following Monday with a rain date of the 20th. So.
Good.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yep. The budget, what's going in, everything isn't, but the actual committee dates are all on the town calendar. Yeah, I'm gonna get that out this week. I've just kind of been busy. I'm working. I got all the dates in. I just haven't got all the agendas out.
Okay,
And we just signed your budget, individuals. We just signed them in. That's what that orange folder is. So now he'll email you all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have the budget email group updated, I think. I don't know.
okay, we're gonna move on to the next topic.
Okay.
Ordinance Review Committee. The select board sent a list of requests to the Ordinance Review Committee for their review. And in turn, Heather came back and said, hey, there's a few legislative changes that we probably need to incorporate. So Heather, would you step up to the mic and talk a little bit about what those items are?
Heather Roberts, Car Hill Road, the chair of the Ordinance Review Committee. Not a fan of mics, but I'm going to use it because I know from watching these online, you can't hear people if you aren't at the mic. So there's 2 items and we had sent an email, I think it was back in October. So one is LD 1829, which real short and sweet. It's about housing. And Mount Vernon needs to abide by that by July of 2027. So there is a little bit of time for that, but having gone through the last round of this, I highly recommend that we start on that soon. The second item is LD 1763, which is non-water dependent floating structures, aka houseboats. And they are basically prohibited since September of 2025. So those 2 items weren't on the list that you guys had sent to us from the last meeting. And we recommend that they be added. Also, we would like, if you guys can prioritize the list, including those 2 items. And we highly recommend that those 2 are first on the list. And then I do have some high-level questions and comments on the list that you did provide, but I'll pause if there's any questions on.
I mean,
Is there any money from the state on the 1829? Like the last round?
Sue, sure.
The state had funds.
Hi,
Hi, Heather.
Happy New Year.
Sorry.
Sue.
Susan Herman, Bean Road. So there is going to be grant money, like
Okay.
there was for LD 2003. There was supposed to be a meeting today on Zoom that was canceled because the state was closed because of the weather. So that's been postponed. So we did help the select board on the grant for 2003, the LD 2003, which we got, and I think it was $10,000. And we used that to reimburse us for legal fees and printing and all sorts of stuff. So that will be very helpful. So if we probably would be planning to, with your support, attending the Zoom and finding out how to apply.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
I mean, I guess on a priority basis, the legal changes would be get those done first. I think the houseboat one, I assume, would be pretty straightforward. It's no. Based on what the state law is, and then on the housing changes. I mean, I wouldn't expect to have them done this year, but if you guys think you're gonna need the time, then take the time and go from there.
And on the other items, like I said, I have some questions and comments that might feed into the need for those. So the first one, or number one on the list that was provided, was about height restrictions on solar. And one question I have is that for small and accessory scale?
Yes.
Yes. So large and medium, so it's for all.
I have heard requests about small scale systems
Okay.
and where people who want to put one up in their yard are struggling with the height restriction with the size of panels that are available today.
Okay. So I'll just mark it as all, and I will just note that Reedfield's ordinance has the same height restrictions as what we currently have now. But we will definitely look into it and provide you with feedback. On the second one for buffers, I assume that's for small scale because you're talking about
Correct.
small lots.
Yeah. Again, people with very small lots are struggling with the buffer requirements.
So there is under section 5C 5AF, it does state that in lieu of vegetative screen, a fence that provides visual screening and meets the requirements of the controlling ordinance may be allowed only if a vegetative screen is deemed impractical by the planning board. So there is language in there now that provides something other than vegetative screening. And I will note that, the buffering and screening is there to protect your neighbors and the character of the town. But there is language in there for fencing as well. On the third item, which was in regards to fireworks and reducing the restrictions in the shoreland zone, based upon, or the way this is worded, is based upon there's no mechanism to penalize individuals who do set off fireworks in the shoreland zone. Just to say at the beginning that the shoreland zone, the only further restrictions are days. There is a section 5 in the ordinance that clearly states violations, enforcements, and how they're all dealt with. I will also note that the Mount Vernon firework ordinance is a consumer firework ordinance. It doesn't restrict professional firework contractors. When the firework ordinance was enacted, we did have a public hearing, which we always have, and it was very well attended. Fireworks in the village and the shoreland zone was a particular focus of the public hearing, and a lot of the comments we got were in favor of more rather than less restrictions. So we can look into that, but I guess maybe understanding a little more of what the concern
It's really the
is.
date restrictions during summer. That's where I've gotten a lot of pushback of people that have wanted to, they can't afford to do a professional display, but they want to do, buy basically a bunch of people get together and pull money for commercial or consumer display, but they're so restrictive on the dating that, I'll use the fire department for example. The fire department wanted to do one for the 100th. They couldn't, it's like $10,000 for a professional display. So a bunch of members were going to donate professional consumer fireworks, and they wouldn't be able to do it with the dating the way it is.
So dates, we'll look.
Dates between Memorial Day and Labor Day.
We will look into the dates.
Heather, could you
Thank
tell, do you recall what the principal concerns were? Was it the pollution? What was it, the noise? What were people most worried about?
There was discussion about pollution to the water, and there was also discussion about a lot of the shoreline of them going off all the time.
Yeah.
And Airbnbs, people coming up and in the summertime, and now there's fireworks going off on a Tuesday night, in the middle of the work week. And it was from a lot of lakefront property owners who had concerns. And there was quite a few people who didn't want fireworks at all.
I mean, I'm in favor of weeknight restrictions, but I think weekends is where I think there's some friction there.
Okay. And we don't have to go into detail. I just want to get a little more understanding to bring back to our committee, but that's good. Thank you. The fourth item was about, it says the fire department and fire company would like the electronic signage limitation to be relaxed so that the fire company can advertise their events via the sign. I just want to make sure, one, that this request is from the select board, because we do get our direction from you. And just to understand a little bit more, is it what can be advertised, or that it's an electronic bright sign?
It's more the what.
It's the what?
The what, because the concern that was brought to us is
Right now.
the fire company paid for the sign and now they can't advertise their like family fun day on the sign because it needs to be a public safety message. So
Okay.
relaxing that piece of it.
Okay. And I do know from, the ordinance review committee that when that sign went in, there were complaints about the sign and the brightness and the light and to
Right.
the neighbors.
I don't, and Noah, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the complaint was brought about the time of night and making sure it's off at night so that it's not super bright into people's home, but it's more
That's why it's off.
the
Yeah.
And rather than the fire department, they or those homeowners who have issues with it, why about
Okay, thank you. The next one on here was about the animal control ordinance. So a question and a statement with that. The question, is there a particular area of concern with the current ordinance, something that we should be focused on?
The violations when dogs run at large has been brought up to me by quite a few people in Mount Vernon. They say there's no teeth in the animal control.
Okay,
I think it was also whether there should be fees associated with.
Correct. Yes, that's right. The fees. So that the Mount Vernon folks know what to expect if they let their dogs run at large.
And on the flip side, whether the animal control officer is someone who should respond to other than domesticated animals. I think the current ordinance says that the animal control officer, for example, is supposed to go out and scoop up roadkill and things like that.
okay. And I did want to note too that back in 2019, the ordinance review committee, we did look at the animal control ordinance, and there was a change that was approved at town meeting. At that point in time, for whatever reason, it did not get updated. So it was reviewed not that long ago, and we will make sure those changes
Thank you.
get brought back in. Let's see. The timber ordinance, we will review and provide some feedback and some additional information on that.
Which one?
To all you guys, there's some additional information we would share.
Shifting our regulations to match state regulations. Is that correct?
So I guess I can go into a little more detail now, but right now, Mount Vernon regulates timber harvesting on steep slopes greater than 25%, which I have a second item after this, which the state does not regulate. But Mount Vernon does, and I think it's been since about 2001. Mount Vernon also regulates the shoreland zone, which tracks state law very closely. If we turn that authority back over to the state, there's a different set of regulations that are enforced for that. So if we were to turn shoreland zone back to the state, that would be a different authority than steep slope. So we'd have two different authorities there, which could be very conflicting. So just wanted to throw that out there. And as we meet as a committee, we can summarize all that more and send it back to you.
Quick question. Can we change our ordinance to match the state without turning it back to the state?
Are you talking about shoreland zone
Timber.
or steep slopes?
Steep slope.
So the state doesn't regulate steep slopes.
I thought you said ours was, so we have a 25%.
That's what we,
State doesn't have that.
right. And that's part of why we worked this summer to digitize the steep slopes map, which I think would be very beneficial to have KV Cog, Turner Allen, I always flip his name around, maybe do a presentation to the whole select board on that. I mean, I think it's awesome what he did, not just with steep slopes, but tax map, everything. It's
Flood zone.
I don't know if the flood zone's in there,
Okay.
but zoning districts, prime farmland. But there should be a time that is presented to everyone on the select board for that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It needs to be approved at the town meeting.
Yeah, and it needs to be approved. But that's the steep slopes, the 25% timber harvesting. That's why the steep slopes map, the previous CEO said it should be digitized, should be updated. That's all because of this. The next one, docs. We can look into that. We've looked into docs numerous times. I also noted when I watched the minutes that it was stated that like Hammond Lumber didn't sell.
I don't think it was they didn't sell, but they're selling docks that are larger.
Yes,
Than our ordinance permits.
So there are always larger docks, but there are docks available that meet our ordinance. But we will look at it again and provide feedback on that. I just didn't know if there was other concerns other than that the ordinance doesn't accommodate dock sizes that are commercially available. I didn't know if there was more concerns than that.
I know some of this was feedback that I had while I was on the planning board, is that there was multiple times where people have gone to like Hammond Lumber, bought a dock, installed the dock, and then somebody comes and checks your land and like your dock's illegal per our ordinance. So I think trying to make sure that we're looking at what is commercially available and making sure our ordinance are aligned in that so that people unwittingly don't go buy a dock and then find out that if our ordinance is more restricted than say Belgrade or Reedfield, that we're kind of in line with everybody else. So that way people, when they go to market, they have a good shot of making sure they're getting a product or they're buying a product that they know is going to be in line with our ordinance. And they don't have to do extensive research to verify that.
And I also think it's important that people know we do have a land use ordinance and to check that before you go buy something. But we will look more into the docks. The last one was number 8 was about periodic reviews. While I don't disagree with that, even a fifth of the land use ordinance a year is a very large amount. We did just reformatting, and it was over 100 hours. We will definitely look into it and try to come up with a recommendation to have more review. And potentially, we're now a member of KV Cog. Maybe they can help out with that. There was a comment about our long-term goal should be to simplify and make our ordinance easier to understand by people who need to use the ordinances. I would also say any direct feedback that we get on areas that could be improved is very helpful. It is a complicated document because there are a lot of complicated subjects in there. But any area that's difficult, whether it's the planning board or the select board or the CEO or anyone, providing feedback on ways we can clarify will definitely help with that. But doing the whole thing in 5 years, if you remove everything else, even that it's a lot. And the last one, the addressing ordinance and update the costs. If someone can send that to us, because we don't have that. And I also want to, if I didn't say it already, to thank the select board for providing this unified approach of our action items. I think it's very important that the community understands where we get our direction, how we get our direction, and how the process is taken. So I thank you for that. And if you could, I mean, we're going to start meeting this week anyway. If you could prioritize these items and send them back to us, it would be appreciated. And that's all I have.
When you meet?
Wednesday.
Every Wednesday or?
So we meet the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. There are notices out here. It's on the calendar. It's on our, under documents, the ordinance review committee. At the library, 6:30.
I mean, if they're meeting Wednesday, we probably should prioritize now,
Well, we're going to start with the
state ones.
housing and, you
Yeah,
know,
those two that you said.
yeah.
And then I think beyond that, my opinion would be just work through it in the reviewing, like the reviewing the ordinance, we can set that aside, but I think if they're all just give them a once over, give us your feedback and then we'll go from there.
Okay. And we can just go in the order, just knowing that it's February.
Yeah.
Basically. And we have to have everything done, say by the end of March.
Yeah.
In time for public hearing and feedback. So it's a tight schedule.
And you really needed the list by when? September? Was
So
it?
we'd like it in the fall.
Yeah.
Because if we get it in the fall, we have before, like when we had LD 2003, we were meeting in October.
Okay.
So the fall is definitely recommended and I will continue to ask
I mean,
and
I
remind
will
you.
say that we'll maybe having a standing list and then just work through them. And if they make it on this year's warrant, they make it on this year's warrant. And I think that would almost be a better way, whereas as we get feedback, we send it back to the committee and say, add this to your standing list. Either we can put it at the end of the list or if we feel that it needs to be higher.
And then
And then
maybe
just-
what we do in the fall, just so it's clear, because there was some confusion last year about why we were looking at.
Yeah.
So we can do the standing list, but then always in the fall, we'll meet with you guys and say, this is what we have. And this is still the priority in the order and.
Sounds good.
that works
That
fine.
sounds-
And I'm going to post this under documents on the ordinance review committee as well, so everyone can see what our action items
Yeah,
are.
great.
Perfect.
Okay.
That's a ton of work. Thank you.
It is.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Heather and Susan.
Susan?
There's a requirement, I think, or know this, for planning boards to get trained
Yep.
on this new law. And the deadline is March, I think it's March 24th, 2026.
On the new law,
The new law.
on the 1829?
I haven't seen anywhere but that.
No.
Yeah.
When-
That's right. So.
If you find out where that is, could you send that to me? Because I
Yeah.
get that to them.
Like. But.
MMA does that?
Which law is that? Which one is that?
1829.
1829, yeah.
We already received something about that.
I would just check with MMA too.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to the next topic, which is the Blake Hill Bridge. It's an update. As anybody that's tried to go down Blake Hill knows, the road is closed. There is no bridge there anymore. The steel that they took out was described to me as almost worthless. That it was really in bad shape. They have started work on the Ron LaRue's side of the road in terms of digging for the new abutment placements. That's where the new steel will sit on that side. And then there is a telephone, well, a CMP pole that needs to be moved and that's scheduled to be moved, I believe, next week. And so they'll get to work on this side of the bridge for the abutment once that pole is moved, because the pole is right in line with where the abutment is supposed to be. The only other thing is that we got another invoice for work being done at the Blake Hill Bridge for $82,650. And so that's part of our warrant for this cycle. That will be submitted to the state for reimbursement of 60% of the total. That's all I have.
I just ask that where I'm not in town during the week, if I can keep getting pictures so that I can
Yep.
blast those updates
Yep.
out.
I've got
On
one
social
more for
media.
you.
Thank you.
And the next one will probably be a lot of snow. Okay, next up is Code of Ethics update. So we sent, we created a Code of Ethics. We submitted it to our attorney for review. The attorney sent it back with a set of other Code of Ethics from other towns and basically asked us to review those and perhaps include some language from that might be pertinent to Mount Vernon. We did that through by basically uploading those documents into an AI engine and created a new document, and that was shared with the select board members. I don't know if anybody has comments about whether that's sufficient and that we should send that to the attorney for review or whether there's other comments. So
Nope, I liked it.
I like the draft using the AI, and it was very complete. And also about the training part of it, the hours.
okay, great.
So I think we should send that back and vote to adopt it.
I'm just giving one more.
Yeah, I'll send it back and we'll circle back on once we get it back from the attorney.
Right.
Okay. Yep. Next up on the agenda is the interlocal agreement that, so as many of you know, we've had several situations where our clerks were not able to be in the office, and most of the tasks can be done online, but there are certain tasks that do require a person to be there in order to, for example, register a new vehicle. You can re-register a vehicle, but to register a new vehicle, you have to actually sit down with the clerk. So that would be an example of what we want to be able to help out our residents. And what we've done is talk to Belgrade, and we have created an interlocal agreement with them that they were supposed to send that back today, but given it was a snow day, I don't have it in hand. And so once we have that, it'll be in force for 2 months. They were not willing to go for an extended period of time, but they will renew it depending on their ability to service our residents. So that's my update on the interlocal agreement. I think it'll be in place this week. And that's one of the ways we considered to basically address any issues where both the clerk and deputy clerk are out. Okay, here comes the big one, right? Factoring. I shared I don't know if anybody got it, so I shared a graph of the state valuations. And you can see over to the right side of that graph how dramatically the valuations of our homes have gone up in the past 5 to 6 years. Our assessments on our houses have not kept pace with that. And so there are means that we need to consider. I'm not saying that, as I think I probably overstated in the agenda, that we have to do 75% factoring, but it's likely we do have to come somewhere in that ballpark. Bob I think, has a different opinion about this, but right now our assessment to the state's assessment stands at 51.54%. So we're less than just over 50% of what the state sees that our valuation at. The state bases theirs on recent home sales. We base ours on an assessment. But the state expects you to be up in the 80% range, at least within their valuations. So it's really just to give everybody a heads up that we need to take some action here. I mean, I think that the revaluation is the best way to go forward because it is an individualized revaluation, and those properties that haven't appreciated as much won't be assessed, will be assessed appropriately. Those that have risen dramatically will be assessed that way, or they'll be assessed more. And specifically what I'm saying is it looks like those properties that are near lakes are those that have probably appreciated more than those properties that are not on a lake. I know one of the big concerns was that if we do something like a factoring, that the increase in the assessment automatically increases your taxes. That is not accurate. The taxes are based on the budget committee and what they determine our needs are. And what I've done on this document is to show that, for example, last year our budget was $2,569,534. The county tax was $525,000. The education appropriation was $3,561,467. And so it is that municipal appropriation of $2,569,000 that we have any control over. The rest we have little control over. But the increase in assessment, so right now our mill rate is 22.75%, or not percent, but 22.75 mil, which means that's a mill is $1 of tax on $1,000 of value. And so that is what will change if the assessment is increased, the mill rate will come down. We're not going to all of a sudden next year. Well, I'm guessing that we're not going to need $3 million. We're going to be somewhere in the ballpark of $2,569,000, recognizing that your taxes are always going to increase along with inflation, because we experience inflation in our municipal budget too. So that's kind of the short of it. The mill rate would come down if we do any factoring. Your taxes will stay fairly level, and aside from that, keeping up with inflation.
So, I was monitoring social media over the last 48 hours after I posted the agenda. So, I kind of wanted to address some of the concerns kind of more directly to what Carl had mentioned. There was a concern that if we jump the assessments, taxes are going to jump. If we jump the total assessments by 75%, taxes are going to jump 75%. Again, that's not what will happen. Is the assessed values will go up, but the total value that needs to be milled out of that will be the same or within a percentage based on the budget. So you should see your taxes stay relatively flat, but the actual amount, what is being taxed for assets, is higher. So the percentage that you need to tax to meet the budget should be lower as a percentage. So instead of, I'm not going to throw mills out, but you should see the mill rate come down fairly drastically. You should also see, and this is the big push to do this factoring, your homestead exemption should return to
100%.
100% of what they should be. So that you should see your taxes. If you're claiming homestead exemption, you should see your taxes come down or the increase be very minimal this year, because the homestead exemption is back to 100%.
What is it now? Homestead?
What is 25,000?
25,000.
I've seen legislative sessions to try to increase that, but right now it's 25,000 and is not pegged to any inflation index.
And we only got 17,000 this year.
Right.
Yeah, we only got 54% of what the possibility was.
So you should see, that savings from the restored mill, not just the homestead exemption, but if you're a veteran, that exemption is also impacted by the discrepancy between the total assessed value and the state assessment.
And just to take this another step further, for example, if you had a home that was worth $250,000, our current mill rate's 22.75, your taxes would be $4,550. If excuse me, if that house was factored to be by 75% and is now valued at $350,000, the mill rate would drop to 13 and the tax rate, assuming everything was equal, would be the same, $4,550. But again, every year there's inflation, so we will undoubtedly be a little bit higher than that number.
I would also add that if you look back on that, 60% of your property taxes, the town has no control over. It is the school board and the county tax. That's about $4 million of the 2.6 million. The total 2.6 million. And then there's some state revenue sharing and other revenues that bring that down to just under 6 million. Again, over 4 million of that is the school and the county. So I would encourage those concerned to again reach out to us so that we can do our due diligence on our budget process. But the school and the county also have a part to play here, and a significant part of that. From the budget presentation that I saw from the district's looking at a cap of 5.5% increase this year. All things being equal, they estimate that if they do nothing to their budget, they don't change anything year to year, their budget minimum increase is 4%. So if they want to do any improvements at all, they're looking at over a 4% increase. And otherwise they need to make cuts. So, and the county, I haven't heard anything out of the county yet on their budget.
Bob, you talked to Joe Petrosky.
Yeah, they're trying to hold it firm, but we won't know for a couple more weeks. He's going to let us know, though, as soon as he can.
So,
Did Remy have a question?
I was just going to add about the homestead exemption.
Okay, thank you, Remy.
Yep.
Are there any comments on the topic of factoring? Great. Next up is a discussion of the clerk's position. As many of you know, Heather has signaled to us that she is planning to retire at the end of her term this year. And we're also transitioning from that position being an elected position to an appointed position. So given that, we are planning to put out a job posting for the clerk's position. And we'll look for the best person of the applicants that we get. With that, I think there's an opportunity for us to consider how we might want the staff to be organized. One of the concerns that I think has become clear is that it's difficult to have two people from the same household be in those two positions. And so I would advocate that we add
per policy, under the adopted personnel policy, it can't happen anymore.
Right.
You cannot report to a family member cannot be a direct report. So as a byproduct of that policy, it can't happen. Under our current arrangement where it's an elected town clerk, state regulation, and I talked to MMA extensively about this, they can appoint their deputy at will. So that's where that policy doesn't have to be followed under the current setup, but after July 1st, that policy would be in effect on the position.
Yeah, so we will be involved in the selection of the deputy clerk.
Yeah. So kind of asked for this to come onto the agenda. Because I think there's a couple of things that maybe we don't need answered tonight, but we're gonna need answered quite quickly budgetarily. And that is the hours and how these two positions are structured. Because right now we have two positions. They're both scheduled for 32 hours a week. And they're both benefited positions. I went to MMA and asked for the salary survey, and our hourly rate is about in line. We're a little bit below where the regional averages for towns our size. So we'll most likely go and look at the market rate. So that way there we're competitive. And I'm also going to propose a salary scale in there based on years of experience. So that way there, if we can get somebody that's coming in with years of experience, that we're offering competitive pay based on that. The other thing is that our total hours are not in sync. So our clerks work 32 hours a week. State standard is 40. So that way there it's in line with a 40-hour a week salaried position. So by rights, that's an 8-hour increase on a salaried position. Which in turn would mean most likely an increase in hours at the town office to facilitate that. The second piece of this is how do we want to structure the deputy clerk's position? Because I think in making the changes that we're making, I think we have an opportunity to empower some day-to-day management of the town that not necessarily the select board is doing now, that we could transfer to some positions within the town office. So I just kind of want to gauge, do we want to look into that? Because I mean, we can shuffle the budget schedule around, but by rights, it's going to be changes to job descriptions and hours. So we need to kind of set some hours there and restructure the office, because where it's not elected, we have a little bit more freedom to do some cross training and to not just reset that office, but reset the rest of the town office as a whole.
So what you're suggesting is merging the deputy clerk with the administrative assistant.
I think there's a couple of positions that we can look at consolidating. I'm not gonna, until we do a little bit more research, I'm not confident that there is some combination of our current roles that we could condense down. And I think we could get away with 2 full-time positions and maybe 1 or 2 part-time. And accomplish a lot of goals that we want to accomplish. Because I think we need a town clerk that is there and is consistent. That's goal number 1. I think we need to have a way that the town office is open more frequently. So that means having at least 2 people by rights that can be there to do town office work. I think we have an opportunity to, if we have a snow day, open up remote work. And if that means we need to invest and switch out from desktops back to laptops or some combination therein, we have the opportunity to do that. I think we have, I think we've had some concerns that there's not enough office work to be done on a day-to-day basis to justify full-time a week. Well, I can speak for myself as a select board person. I'm putting in 30 hours a week and doing some day-to-day administrative stuff that roles within the town office could do, whether it be managing social media or doing a lot of the policy research that we do. Empowering the office to take some of that burden on where they're in the office day to day. They're not working another 2 full-time jobs on top of this one. I guess that's kind of what I'm proposing, is that we take a deep dive now while we have the chance to, and really look at the structure of the town office and what do we want to accomplish therein.
And I'd like to propose that we, for example, go out and interview neighboring towns to see how they've organized their staff and take any learnings from that.
Right. I think the big thing we're going to find is that Belgrade, Rome, Reedfield, Manchester, Fayette, and Wayne have town managers, which we don't. And there's some legal implications therein in terms of how staff reporting, but I think there is a way that we can get some of those same outcomes of a town manager in terms of helping us with the day-to-day operations that don't necessarily necessitate a town manager right, wrong, or indifferent. I think there's some ways that we can do some restructuring and get some of those same outcomes. And then have the larger discussion about a town manager and what that means for a change in government, along the way. But I think we've all identified on this board that there is gaps in our ability to administer the town by the nature of our positions that we're just not able to address currently. So I think this gives us the opportunity to start addressing those and then identify the gaps as we're presenting our case for why we believe we should have a town manager.
I think that's great. I like it. The only thing I'm worried a little bit about is it becomes a stopgap that can be used against the town manager model. It's like, well, you've changed it now. You've got beefed up administrative system that does a whole bunch of these other things. Why do y'all need a town manager? Well, I don't know how to get around that, but you've got to be a little bit leery of that.
Well, I think it also, the functional difference is the ability of staff to report. I
That's
think
the big one.
that's the big one. It's the HR functionality, and it's also, how do I describe this? There is a level of executive function that is not, administrative assistant is a clerical position. A town manager is an executive position. And I think that is the distinction there is the town manager can make decisions as long as those decisions
On behalf of the select board.
on behalf of the select board, so long as they are in compliant with the policies that we set.
Yeah.
An administrative assistant cannot execute those decision making.
No, I know there are big differences. Important differences.
But
I worry about giving the impression that we're all set if we.
I'm not going to give the impression that we're all set. I'm saying that we can solve some problems.
I want to bring it back to the original here with the clerk's position. The clerk's position needs to be boosted soon because there is a huge training curve if we hire someone new other than the staff we have now. So I was in hopes tonight that we would get the okay to post the job description that we already have because there is a lot of training and certifications that need to be done that if the candidate doesn't already come to us certified. And we're going into February and we need someone who can do the elections and voting. And this is a huge count. State needs the clerks to perform these duties. Okay. So it's not like we can keep postponing the job opening. Is that something that we can do tonight?
We can, we just need to settle the hours so we can budget for it. I guess, and if we can haggle, I don't think we're necessarily haggling the job description because it's fairly standard relative to the rest of the state. I think what we're more looking at is the deputy clerk's position in terms of making changes relative to the job description. So I would say, yes, we can post the clerk's position.
But how do we pay for that?
No, can't. No.
What, the training of a second
Well,
person?
it would be a third person, right?
It would be,
Heather's not
sorry,
leaving
third.
Till July or till June 10th or whatever.
Didn't the last meeting we identify some monies?
No.
Didn't we? No?
No, we've tapped contingency.
Oh.
No, but the clerks are also underusing their hours at the
That's right.
moment because of the closures. So you do have a little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, but
Transfer station.
so I think we need to coordinate with you and Dorcas to get an update in terms of where we are in terms of budgets for this kind of a possibility.
Yeah.
I don't think you need an official vote to post a job though, especially for one that's upcoming. But the issue would run into the fact that a clerk could not be hired on or to even start training with our current clerk until July 1st. So it right now, it doesn't actually even matter if we have extra money or not, because
By law, they can't work unless they're appointed by the current clerk.
correct. Which the clerk, as long as it's within the budget, has the right to appoint a second deputy. There's no reason that that can't happen, but you would have to have Heather agree to that. And she would have to appoint a second deputy. But as long as it's within budget and meeting the hours that are set, there's nothing stopping the clerk from appointing an additional deputy.
My other question is, they technically don't have to do the actual clerk work for us if they need training. They could be going through the training and we compensating them if they are missing a certification or whatever. We could use that money to fund their training so that way they are come July 1st, they're ready to hit the ground running and would just need to be caught up to speed on our internal systems. Basically, they wouldn't be a deputy clerk for that period. They would just be in training, getting caught up on our system so that way July 1st comes, they start, Heather's done June 30th, July 1st, they are the clerk.
And yes, sorry.
That would be the other option, is that we maintain our current system right up until July 1st. And they don't need to be appointed into the role if they're not doing the work. They're just getting trained.
Yeah.
But the
you said
second-
it was hybrid things too.
Right.
The second
doing
part of this is we need to move forward with getting more items online that folks can register from home, like boats, ATV, all those things that I see this past summer. Everybody clamors in before the 4th of July and there's lines out the door.
100%.
Why aren't we moving forward with that? And if there's a reason why, then I'll work on it. I mean,
That comes from them. I mean, we can't
okay, so we need to get with Heather? Is that what we need to do?
technically until July 1st, Heather's elected. So those systems are controlled by her.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I think ATVs are, you can do.
The only thing they can't do now is boats.
It's just about,
And
And maybe
dogs.
pets,
And dogs.
dog licenses.
Oh, no.
and you do trailers.
Yes.
It's new stuff that's
Yeah, it's the new stuff that's the problem.
The new stuff has to go to the office. Okay.
the other one is
It's boats and dogs.
boats and dogs. And I think there's also a way we need to find a way to like be able to, we'll need to find a way to make it work monetarily wise, but pay your property taxes by card online. That you can just sign in,
That's right. That was
pay your property
tax.
taxes online.
That's
So you don't
right.
have to mail a check because
We want to do property taxes online.
yes, we're just gonna have to eat a credit card processing fee unless we do ACH transfers, but yeah.
So with that, posting the clerk position plus getting this done, we should be in good shape come July 1, correct?
Better shape.
Back to no problems with all of this, posting it, so forth. I actually think there's work to do, the training to be the clerk and all the administrative stuff.
Yep.
The hybrid position, just don't know how we're gonna pay for it. Figure it
Yeah,
out.
I'd like to go over the budget before we post it.
So
Yeah.
that would be a Dorcas.
I mean,
Okay.
Okay.
I'd be in favor of a working session just to get.
We have a question.
Karen?
Oh, I was just gonna say, having a working session to just work through that job description, work through how we're gonna structure the town office.
How about next Monday?
That's fine. I've got 3 other meetings that week. We'll make it work.
Well, we got to do some work first.
Good.
Karen Mears again, Pond Road. I liked your idea of taking either things that is not your top skill or things that are overload, or social media doesn't have to be your thing, Tyler, although I'm super excited that it's there, but I don't want to be on your committee. To put those, to create those into the deputy clerk's job. I think that's really great. I know you don't like it, but the town hasn't voted that they want a town manager yet. So we went from the 3 selectmen to the 5 select people. You guys do have a lot of responsibility. Make your list, and these are the things we do. We do these every month, every year, every whatever. These things are very paper and I'm not putting your job down. The deputy clerk could do these things. And I think that's a good thing because we haven't agreed as a town that we want town manager. So why not put that into practice for a year if it works out? I think that's a good idea. And then when we have that vote, we'll go down that road.
I do think the vote is slated for November.
Yeah, yeah, that's what we're.
So you might be right, Karen. In the end, the wisdom of the town will be for or against a town manager, but that's November. Yeah.
I mean, the reason I look at it as there is a lot that goes into voting on a town manager in terms of how that all falls into place in terms of because we have to fundamentally change the governing structure of the town. So there's change. I don't know if we're going to go with the charter method where you have to redo the town charter.
No charter.
No charter. So we're doing the statutory town manager. Or that's what we would propose to the town. But I think there is a lot of between town manager, there's a lot there and there's a lot of groundwork that needs to be done. But in the meantime, we can solve some operational needs. And then while we're having that discussion, say, look, we've already empowered this person. We're 9/10, we're 8/10 of the way there. This change here provides these benefits. And because we've done all this consolidation, the impact to your taxes is minimal because we already have this position funded at this rate. The town manager's paid at this rate. This is the increase that you're going to see. And I think that softens the blow, I would say, of saying we're going to go to a town manager. It's $100,000 a year position and we're creating everything there. No, we're taking these positions that we've already kind of reworked, empowering them more and compensating them as such. But I think we can all agree just on our own workloads that there is some work that we are doing administratively that we could offload in the here and now without having to vote on a town manager.
Well, there's some that we're doing that we shouldn't be doing because the decisions should be made by at least 3 of us, not by 1.
I don't disagree.
Because we show up at the transfer station, Megan asks us one of us a question, and we answer it, and we shouldn't be.
Right. And that is the fundamental problem with the select board being the administrators of the town is we have to vote with a quorum, but we only meet every 2 weeks. Like there are decisions that need to be made day in, day out that we can't make.
We're a legislative body.
So, but I think we can empower a role to take off some of not maybe those decisions, but the steps that lead up to those decisions being made.
I like it. So we'll get a lowdown from Dorcas and Remy on what we got. So then I would say, if it looks good, if we've got some do-re-mi to do it, let's post it.
For the clerk's position, I'm trying to get some preliminary numbers in. Am I budgeting at 32 or am I budgeting at 40? 40?
40.
Okay. And then we don't need to decide the deputy clerk's position today, but that's kind of the other one that we need to look at for how we're going to budget it. The clerk is the primary. The deputy clerk is how we're going to set the hours. If that makes sense. So the office is going to be open. I think, what do we open now for total hours?
32.
32.
When it's up. So right now we're open 32 hours a week and we don't have a lot of flexibility in those hours. So empowering the deputy clerk, whether that deputy clerk's position is a full 40 hours a week as a town clerk, or if there's other roles put onto it that help justify 40 hours a week, I think that's kind of what needs to be determined.
Clerk.
I think there may be some that. Well, that's I guess we kind of need.
Those are next steps, yes.
Those are next steps, but I'm saying
Right.
for a budgetary purpose, we pencil in 40 and then we can set the hours kind of as we go.
Yeah,
Tyler.
The hours are actually already in policy.
This,
The hours are in policy.
you keep talking about clerk. Heather's job is tax collector and clerk.
Okay.
Clerk is a very small portion. Tax collector is the big part. She's committed to that $6 million. Okay. Now she'll that commitment will be taken off sometime in April or June. Then she'll be relieved of that $6 million. So when we talk about clerk, we gotta continue to talk about tax collector because that's the biggest part. She's bringing in that $6 million and she's committed to that amount. And that's very hard.
I'm not disputing
very
that.
important.
I guess I'm talking in the town office is open for X number of hours. There's Y number of things that need to be accomplished. How many hours do they need to work a week? We're saying right now we're budgeting 32.
That's all you need.
and I think we need to talk to other towns before we decide the number of hours, frankly.
Yeah.
But I'm just going off the scale and most of them are running 40.
Let's just make sure we talk to towns that are functioning well.
Right.
Because
I mean,
talk to towns that aren't working well.
Oh, great. It's a good one. Let us do some talking. We'll get some information. We'll come back and do a work session.
I'm in favor of next week then. You guys think you can get that information for next week?
We'll try.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I make a comment?
1 second.
So a lot of what you're talking about is the work that the governance committee did.
Yes.
And all of that information is in the documents online. It's like, we have a whole graph of each town, what the select board did, what the town manager did, where the crossover was. So if you want to, if you haven't looked at that, that's really important information.
Right.
And it might help you. It's a place to start if you're thinking about, talking to other towns and towns that function well and towns that function not so well. So I just thought.
Good point, Kathy. Thank you.
I did look at that. Thank you.
I have a comment.
Kathy, we're going to bring the governance committee together with us at some point here to talk. Yeah.
Stuart's got a comment on that.
Yep.
Go ahead, Chris.
Perhaps KV Cog could provide some assistance in understanding the number of hours that various towns use to pay their administrative staff, tax collectors, and so forth.
So I was going to say, we have the MMA puts together a salary scale from all of their members. So that's kind of the basis for all that data. It's all sorted by population size. You can take a town that's the same size as Mount Vernon and kind of look at how others are scheduling it right off that document.
And a quick circle back to what Kathy just made reference to. I want to point out where that is. It's under documents and governance committee, and then town manager recommendations with supporting documents. Are there any other questions or comments?
Question? No?
All right. We will move into executive session then.
Oh, I got one thing.
I got one as well.
Do you want to talk about Collins? The representative from Susan Collins came up and talked about the we wanted to talk about fire station, a new fire station, and her representative was talking about a congressional discretionary funds. And Collins has gotten, oh boy, what did he say, about 20 new fire stations, or 15 or 20? But we are a little tight on the schedule. I don't think we can jump on this year's bandwagon. We've got to get more information. We've got to probably put some money in the budget this year to hire an architect or something along that line in order to get budget figures, to be able to give those figures to Collins. And at that point, we could go for that grant. That's not saying that we will get that grant. All I'm saying is,
But even if we have the plans, we can then, if we don't get the grant, we could present a funding mechanism that's not grant funded.
right.
One of the interesting points that Charles made was that Susan Collins funding is for fire stations only, that if you had a municipal building and fire station, that kind of disqualifies from getting the fire station only. So we'd need to make them as adjacent perhaps, but separate buildings for funding.
I think it's an important conversation. I think it might be moving a little faster than I would like. I want to bring up a point that Kathy made. On the ramp. Her point was, how do we know exactly? How do we know that it's not ADA compliant, or how do we know it's going to be this then? So I would want to know that about the fire station.
We're writing that up.
I would want an independent audit of that facility to know what's the problems, when they're going to be deeper problems.
I think they've already done
What
that.
fix might be.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
And it not be done, to be honest, not be done by the fire department personnel. Now, I like them all, they're all great, and they're always on the road and so forth. But do you know what I mean? Like an independent audit, maybe it's already been done?
Yeah. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
All areas at state. Serving on the full board, the bigger district.
Yeah.
So now we can build a future plan, a 5-year plan based on that cost. I think that would happen.
That'd be great.
But in relation to the fire department, we have all the fire systems. We have that that basically told us to use the upstairs station. Basically told us that we couldn't use it for station one. So that eliminates basically all of our storage.
What do you mean by basically?
Well,
It
does.
Bring 5,000 square foot.
Yeah.
That's, I can't walk.
In other words, if you can't use it, I mean, basically.
That's why I say they didn't officially say.
It's not condemned.
Five.
How long, all I'm saying is it's a huge expense. Even if we get the grant, there's probably gonna be a 40% match from the town. It's gonna be a $5 million hit for the town.
20 minutes.
It's gonna be,
20%.
it's gonna be a $3 million hit for the town. And you know, we're gonna do what we gotta do. If it's falling down, if the problem, we gotta do it. Just wanna make sure.
Like a pro number out there, Belgrade got granted to ball. Cost of station was 6.8 million. And cost share of the town was 0.5.
All right, so yeah, so 2 million. I exaggerated. It's gonna be 2 million. That was before, yeah.
It's still a lot of money.
Yes, it's not, it's a piece of change, yeah.
And I think you also need to realize that the fire trucks that we're having to purchase are custom built because they won't fit, bigger ones won't fit in those doors.
So I said a clarification question. Does the town have to vote on whether or not they want a new fire station?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So my question is, you wanna spend money ahead of even people voting, so we're gonna spend $5,000 or whatever it is. And get all these plans, and then the town says, well, we don't wanna do it, so then I just feel like you're putting the cart before the horse and going a little bit too.
I mean,
You can't,
personally,
you can't
we
even
need
go
a
for the
capital.
grant.
You're not gonna get an architect plans for 5,000 either.
Right.
So personally, the best way to do this is to fund what's called a capital asset management plan. And yes, this costs money. It just costs money to do this. But this is best practice from a management perspective. The town goes out, we fund a plan, and it goes through every single capital asset the town has, every road, every building, every large piece of machinery that we would consider a capital project. And it goes through and assesses its value. It assesses what's good about it, what's wrong about it, and what we need to look at. That plan is probably, last time I heard, about $50,000 to do it. However, that plan would guide capital purchases and planning for probably the better part of a decade, I would say, probably closer to 20 years. It'd be 20 years of capital planning that could be done. Again, $50,000. It's not cheap. But we can sit here and look at, oh, we need to do this road this year, or we need to replace this. I'll set fire trucks aside because we rotate ours on a schedule, but we need to replace this asset or that asset. All of that is planned. All of that is documented. It's reviewed annually. But again, the last time we brought this up, the town voted down doing that. They voted down doing the work so that we can make proper investments. Because the way we're doing it right now, we're doing capital asset management blind. So unless we're going to fund that type of project, a lot of this is moot. Because unless we have a capital asset management structure in place, we're building blind.
Well, in order to go for the congressional discretionary fund, you have to have a town vote. You can't do it without the town vote. So,
But to be that first step.
yeah, that's the
I
first.
agree. But Tyler's point's well taken. I mean, do we do the salt shed before we do what?
Right.
What's
You
next?
don't
Yeah.
have a plan in place, and you can't do that without an architectural study.
I hope we can include one in the
And I don't
budget.
personally see a way around it without funding an architectural study for all of our capital assets.
So. Yeah. So in your plan, the capital asset improvement plan, if the town voted yes, that means they're voting yes for every single thing.
No.
Oh.
So what they would be if we voted to adopt a capital asset plan, is we would go out and we would create a document for the next town meeting that would outline the needs over the next, I'm going to say 20 years. These are what we're going to need to do over the next 20 years. And then every year on the budget, there's going to be a line that says capital improvement. And the town can vote that capital improvement down and take on the risks associated therein, or they can vote it and we can mitigate risk. But that is the best practice way to go about this, because I think you're right. The salt shed we've said it needed to be replaced for a decade now, and it's never been replaced. My experience in the fire station is it is a 150-year-old building that is at the end of its shelf life, unless we want to pour some serious money into it. So, but again, the capital asset management plan would show us that the fire station needs, it needs $1 million in deferred maintenance to bring it up to code and whatever. A new fire station costs us, if we got the grant, $2.5 million for matching funds. Well, that's an equation you can bring to the taxpayer and say we can spend $2 million to repair this building, or $1.5 million or whatever to fix this, or we can spend $2 million and have a new 100-year fire station. All of those things you could do in a capital asset management plan.
That isn't in a flood zone, and
That's more centrally located, that has the exhausts, the specialized exhaust stuff, that has a clean room for clean and turnout gear to mitigate cancer risk for the firefighters, that has adequate storage for gear and all that. Yes, there's a lot you can do, but again, you need a plan to do it correctly.
totally agree.
I have one, Karen French asked to be on the budget committee, so I'd like to nominate her to the budget committee. We already signed.
We already signed it.
We already signed it, but we technically have to vote.
Second?
Vote 5-0. Okay. And I have one other thing, that Dorcas asked me to, so this is one of our trust funds, that's with Wells Fargo.
Yes.
And
In Walton.
that has still was in Marty's name. And so this document is a request that I sign it to put this fund in Dorcas's name.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
So moved.
all right, the vote 5-0. Okay, I'll sign it.
Probably should be in two names, but, right?
We can put more than one.
Probably should be in two names.
Okay.
Who do we want second name to be? Or chair?
I think that makes sense.
I would put Kyle's.
Whoever's chair, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remy has a hand up.
Remy, sorry.
I just have a couple of things too.
Okay.
So when you're done signing, you're ready.
It's only me that has to sign this.
Oh, okay. One, I wanted to suggest that people who join on Zoom, if there's a way to screen that and make sure they put their names, because if you come to this meeting, you're required to sign in. And I can distinguish some people, but there's a lot of like iPhones out there, and that's not helpful for me. So I do what I can when writing the meeting minutes, but when you have the meeting minutes, if people are attending, they're supposed to be listing their name.
If I could have everyone on Zoom, please just in the chat, type your first, last name and your street address. Or not your street address, but just the road you live on, for best practice.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Thank you. And I don't know if we want to screen people coming in the future and make sure like you have to have your name going. I don't know how you want to do it. It's helpful.
So we turned waiting room off because it's like when we're having discussion, it's hard for me to bounce between the two.
Yeah.
So waiting room is off. I can turn it back on. I just have caught myself twice where somebody sat in the waiting room for 10 minutes.
Yeah. No, I understand why it got turned off. I'm not suggesting that. I just, we're supposed to be for the minutes, 5 state, we're supposed to be putting the list of people who are in attendance, and it's hard to do that when some people are just like an occasional iPhone or joined by phone kind of name, or so-and-so's iPad. So that's difficult. And then I did want to clarify, we did vote on the 403Bs for Mission Square. Well, we voted to accept Mission Square, which originally was listed as a 403B, but we're actually going to get a 457B, which is a better plan. It'll be the same accounts and everything standard. The only difference is that there aren't the same amount of penalties that involved in like an early retirement. So it's actually better for the individual contributing to that plan through the benefits. So I just wanted to make that official clarification.
And on that point, I believe last time you said we needed to identify 3 health plans out of the municipal plan.
Yes, that's correct. I don't know if there's been any further discussion on what I sent regarding all of that, but
There has not.
Can we just add that to our working session?
Yes.
Because I think personally, we need to go back to the drawing board on how we structure benefits.
yeah, I agree. That would be my recommendation as the person who went through the benefits. I would like to apologize that all of those things were not previously given to me. I very specifically stated to the person I spoke to, our representative, what we were looking for, how many hours our town employees are working. And right now, I didn't get that response until I had said that the select board had voted. So I'm sorry that kind of has to go back to a working session now, but the retirement benefits are signed. I did get an email today about being well, it was asked who the liaison should be for setting up the when having an on-site liaison. I don't know if you want a week to think about that till the working session, or to designate that in the working session. It could be the admin assistant, it could be the clerk, it could be somebody on the select board. It's up to you guys. So I do need to respond to them at some point though, because they're working to get that set, but.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Anything else?
While we're on the meeting, I'd like to thank Bob for getting the cabinet mounted in the community center.
Indeed. Thank you, Bob.
I know that was requested in the
Very nice.
community center and it looks nice. And then I just made it more messy by putting all the stuff on top, but it seems to be working a lot better tonight, so hopefully we're good. We'll see. I need speakers, but we'll get there.
And a camera.
And a camera, better camera than the owl. I apologize, people online. I've got one spec. I think I have enough left in my budget, so get that done. All right, I move to enter executive session pursuant to 1 MSRA, section 405, subsection 6, subsection A.
Vote. 4-0.